Alright, here we have a IP-1310 ALR, radar warning receiver scope, and this is running with BMS 434 and tracking. Now, what do we do? How do we make this work? We've got a TNC 3.6 microcontroller. This is a $30 item you can buy online with the pins attached already, or you can solder them on yourself. You can buy a slightly cheaper version there. And this is generating the output signals that are needed to drive this display. And in the chassis down below, we have Mike Powell's RWR amplifier board that's produced by Jay at Flight Systems Limited. It was in the past produced by Jay. I don't think there's any more of those being built right now, but this is the first realization of that. A few people have actually hooked the IP-1310 up to that board and run the built-in test mode that came with another board that Mike Powell also created. And that board does things quite a bit differently than what we're doing here. The reason why we created this new firmware on the TNC is because Mike Powell's board really doesn't do all of the things that we need it to do to generate all of the RWR images that are possible with BMS. So BMS supports a lot of different RWRs. It does the ALR 57, the 67, the 69, the Carapace, there's a few others. And those all have slightly different, and in some cases very different symbology. So the way that Mike Powell had approached this years back was more of a proof of concept to show how you would do it. Some of that code is interesting, but it doesn't do all the things that we need for BMS. So what we've done is solve it from a firmware perspective, just write our own firmware, and we were able to use Mike's amplifier board to get this prototype running. So thanks to Mike Powell for that, and for all the education that he's given along the way, and the support. I also want to give a couple of acknowledgments to Nigel at Viper Pits for all of the help and for supplying this test unit here. We've got the rack and the test unit are from Nigel. So we've got BMS talking to SimLinkUp, which is a desktop software application that can extract information from BMS and pass it to different modules. And we've got a custom module for SimLinkUp also that talks to this TNC microcontroller and gives it all the information that it needs to render the RWR. I've also got running on my desktop here the RWR emulator tool that comes with BMS, so you can see that SimLinkUp's view of the world and the RWR emulator are pretty much exactly the same. You can see that BMS's view of the world is also the same as what we have on the screen on our scope. So if we fly around a little bit, let's just watch it track in real time. Have some fun. We've got a new symbol here that's come up, and we can see the missile launch. We can see the little heartbeat ticking up and down on the side here, depending on how many symbols are displayed. You can see new symbols continuing to come in. There's some more sound here from the PC telling us that we've got more threats. And we can just watch that all day. It's pretty bright. I don't have my screen calibrated over here yet. It's this is the first cut, so you'll notice the cross is not exactly centered. There's some trim pots for that on the tube itself, and there's also some adjustment pots on Mike Powell's amplifier board that, when those are used, it should dial the calibration in for centering. But this is the first that we've seen IP-1310 working successfully in real time with BMS. And if you want to run this yourself, you'll need Mike Powell's amp board, or you'll build one yourself. The spec on that has been published and is available, so you can build that. And you'll need a TNC, which you can buy right online, pretty cheap. I've got a few extras I'll be getting rid of as well because I don't need them anymore. I've got the one working that I need, and that's all I need. And then we've got a level shifter. I just threw one together out of a breadboard and an op amp and some wires, but you can. We'll make a recommendation on a pro level shifter that'll convert the 3.3 volt outputs from the Teensy to the 5 volt that you need for the amp board. And this same hardware setup can be used also to drive a HUD. So if you think about the XY display, that is the vector scope you're looking at here. The HUD works on a very similar principle, same voltage levels, etc. So depending on which HUD you might have, if you have a A10 HUD or an F16 HUD, you'd be able to use those with the same kind of setup. So we're working on the software part of that now. Should have something out next on that. So stay tuned to this space. In the meantime, this is something new for me. I know some others have seen earlier video demos of test patterns being displayed on the IP-1310, but I haven't really seen, the real RWR working with BMS where you can actually fly around and see what's going on it. This is beyond cool. It's actually a little too bright for display demonstration purposes, so I got to turn that down just so you can see it. But that gives you a good sense for what's possible. All right, that's it. Real working RWR and BMS 434.